and let us all do we can to build a better future. So here is a very eye-opening story that happened yesterday, and it's being shared all over the independent media circuit, and that has to deal with what happened to one of the Intercept's co-founders, Glenn Greenwald. So this is an article. The link can be found in our show notes. I urge everyone to please read the full article. I'm going to be reading some excerpts from it. My resignation from the Intercept, written by Glenn Greenwald. The final precipitating cause is that the Intercept's editors is violating my contractual right of editorial freedom, censored an article I wrote this week, refusing to publish it unless I remove all sections critical of the Democratic presidential candidate, Joe Biden. The candidate vehemently supported by all New York-based Intercept editors involved in this effort at suppression. The censored article, based on recently revealed emails and witness testimony, raised critical questions about Biden's conduct. We actually covered some of those emails and interviews via with Tucker Carlson, also with some audio that's been released as well on our Rockfin channel. Please subscribe to us on Rockfin if you want to see that video as well. The censored article, based on recently revealed emails and witness testimony, raised critical questions about Biden's conduct. No content to simply prevent publication of this article at the media outlet I co-founded. These Intercept editors also demanded that I refrain from exercising a separate contractual right to publish this article with any other publication. I had no objection to the disagreement with my views of what this Biden evidence shows as a last-ditch attempt to avoid being censored. I encouraged them to air disagreements with me by writing their own articles that critique my perspectives and letting readers decide who is right, which is pretty reasonable. Very reasonable.
Yeah.
The way any confident and healthy media outlet would. And to be very clear, myself, Daniel, Jose, Kira, Laney, everyone here, we all have different opinions here at Hard Lens Media. We all have had different perspectives and points of view, whether it's about politics or entertainment. But guess what? At the end of the day, I respect Daniel's, Jose's, Kira's, Laney's opinion, everyone here who's going to have a different opinion. But outright censoring and canceling somebody, that's not how you should operate in any kind of media outlet at all, period. Going further, but modern media outlets do not air dissent. They squash it. So censorship of my article rather than engagement with it was the passive Biden supporting editors chose. The censored article will be published on this page shortly. It is now published here. He actually gave a link to it. So again, if you go to our show notes, you'll be able to see that link. And the emails with Intercept editors showing the censorship are here. So again, I urge our viewers and subscribers to read on to the full story. The show notes are in the description box below. My letter of intent to resign, which I sent this morning to First Look Media President Michael Bloom, is published below. As of now, I'll be publishing my journalism here on Substack, with numerous other journalists, including my good friend and great intrepid reporter Matt Taibbi, have come in order to practice journalism free of the increasing repressive climate that is engulfing national mainstream media outlets across the country.
Exactly.
Okay, hold on. There's a few other like little things I want to just grab, just talk about just before we get into the full story. When I left hold on. So the current iteration of the Intercept is completely unrecognizable when compared to the original version. Rather than offering a venue of airing dissent, marginalized voices, and unheard perspectives, it is rapidly becoming another media outlet with mandated ideological and partisan loyalties, a rigid, narrow range of permitted viewpoints ranging from establishment liberalism to soft leftism, but always anchored in ultimate support of the Democratic Party. A deep fear of offending the hegemonic cultural liberalism and center-left Twitter luminaries, and an overarching need to secure the approval and admiration of the very mainstream media outlets we created the Intercept to oppose, critique, and subvert. As a result, it is rare event indeed when a radical freelance voice, unwelcome in mainstream precepts, is published in the Intercept. And I remember a time when the Intercept used to have a lot of radical voices. Outside reporters or writers with no claim to mainstream credibility, exactly the people we set out to amplify, have almost no chance of being published. It is even rarer for the Intercept to publish content that would not fit very comfortably in at least a dozen or more center-left publications of similar size which predated its founding, from Mother Jones to Vox to even MSDNC. Oh, wait, correction, MSNBC. Courage is required to step out of line, to question and poke at those pieties most sacred in one's own milieu. But fear of alienating the guardians of liberal orthodoxy, especially on Twitter, is a predominant attribute of the Intercept's New York-based editorial leadership team. As a result, the Intercept has all but abandoned its core mission of challenging and poking at rather than appeasing and confronting the institutions and guardians most powerful in its cultural political circles. Again, I urge everyone to read out the full article, but again, Glenn Greenwald goes into exact detail about why he left, why he doesn't want to be censored. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about censorship, this has to basically start with the beginning. Look at what happened when the New York Post made that article about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's dealings in Ukraine, but also allowed the questionable activities that Hunter Biden partook in while he was representing the Biden family, and while Joe Biden was still vice president in the Obama administration. The New York Post got censored by both Twitter and Facebook, a much larger media outlet. Now The Intercept is getting rid of it. One of its basically was trying to censor one of its own co-founders, Glenn Greenwald, because he was also being critical and critiquing the Biden campaign and Joe Biden. We are seeing something very dangerous happen to a lot of media outlets that even we use sometimes to cover stories on. And we're seeing now the influence of the DNC establishment, but also mainstream media impacting a lot of left-leaning media outlets to where any kind of criticism towards the DNC is immediately censored and destroyed. Daniel.
So this is, again, so we were talking right at the beginning, this is why I was worried about, again, cancel culture, it's like it has such a defined term that it's I feel it as very expansive rather than, I think, and like as Jose pointed originally, but in a sense they're the same. It's just an evolution of the same topic. So you brought up earlier Louis C.K. and what happened to him. And he was a scumbag, and he needed to have some amount of comeuppance for what happened. And all the other people that have been hit, AJ, all the people that we've covered in the last few days. But I think now we're seeing it. It was like, well, first it started with, hey, we really got to stop these really terrible men in Hollywood. And that'll obviously trickle down to all the women who aren't as powerful or wealthy, which of course didn't happen. But it keeps expanding. The scope creep keeps happening of who can be, and then that moved on to another category, and then it bled into another category. This scope creep of this idea, it's really the idea. It's what I was saying before when we were talking about AJ, it's the portal, not the person that matters, because it has manifested over the last few years of mainly the Trump administration, because people have had such a freak out of him being there, to now major organizations that used to be much more open to different points of view, canceling all other points of view. And I see it as just a continual path of acceptance, And again, I always bring up the NSA. The NSA was created because of a court precedent that started from a scumbag harassing a woman calling from a phone booth, led to, through court precedent, to the entire NSA existing. So these very small things that are good-natured can turn into these really horrific monsters. And that's what I'm seeing more and more. And this is an example of that. You have Glenn's writing an article saying, hey, there are some issues with Joe Biden. And I have in my contract the ability to publish whatever I want. And so legally he has that. And then the free speech aspect and the press aspect, he has that. And what happens? You have people that are so convinced that they are arbiters of what is real, what is fake, what should happen, what should be canceled, that they violate his contract, and they don't let him publish an article that he wrote violating their contract because, in their mind, they're trying to protect against Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump can be blocked in this way, just about everything else is a lesser issue. So what happens when something comes out about Nancy Pelosi that she's done? Something that's really bad. But, we're getting into midterms, and we don't want to shake the foundation of the Democratic Party, so let's just put that story away. No one needs to hear it. Social media will suppress it. No major outlets will publish it. There you go. It's been canceled. I'm very worried about this continued scope creep that started, again, very innocuous, that we can say, hey, bad people were originally being taken out. But again, the portal matters, the precedent matters more than those are just key points. Those are just blocks along the way. And that really worries me.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jose.
Thanks. I mean, I don't know what else to add except, Glenn Greenwald, some people are pushing back that he was not censored, he was editorialized. But at the end of the day, the part of the story that was trying to be suppressed, editorialized, had to do with Hunter Biden, had to do with the laptop, and it had to do with the editor really not wanting to upset the Biden campaign because the facts were unsubstantiated or what have you. Glenn Greenwald is very principled, and as I said, I am not as free speech absolutist as his disposition seems to be. But putting it from his perspective, I mean, I think, right now it's more of a concern of, was this a smart move on his part? Because the Intercept is obviously in the bag for the Biden administration. But at the same time, it's paying him very well, and it was a way for him to inoculate himself from the administration of Bolsonaro in Brazil that is really out to get him and is looking into criminal charges for his role in helping Lula, and his reporting has helped free Lula in Brazil. So without that, is he more exposed to a Bolsonaro administration? From his perspective, I would guess that he thinks otherwise, which is why he had to break from the Intercept. His explanation didn't make it seem like this Hunter Biden thing was, oh man, that's way out there. Wow, this is very egregious about you. To Daniel's point, there's been a slow incrementalism and what I think people are framing as cancel culture. I think it's really just slow censorship. We should be accurate with, what the media is doing, which is censoring certain perspectives, viewpoints, opinions. In this case, it was slowly trying to curb what he was trying to say. But in his statement, he puts out quite clearly the chain of events that has led him to mistrust how far his this outlet that he co-founded, what let him go to say what he feels needs to be said, which has been his greatest weapon and defense in a industry that runs pretty much antagonistic against an intelligence community that is looking to control all information on the planet and anything that gets disseminated electronically. A Biden administration, not even in office yet, just the heirs of it, about to enter office, making his home base less hospitable, while a government that is extremely fascist and not shy about criminalizing, then prosecuting, and disappearing people. Can he put his trust in the Biden administration not to work with a Bolsonaro administration? Can he trust the Intercept to really protect his family? Or is it his own voice, his truth, and his brand of authenticity that is going to better shield him for what comes next? And I think he made his call, and I don't think anyone in the industry or anyone else out there are in his shoes and can really judge him for that call. So whether it was smart or not, or you could say it was right or wrong. He could have stayed within the Intercept and kept agitating different ways. I've talked before how my whole endeavor was always to try to do like a daily show type of show where we can try to take heavy material and lighten it up, not even necessarily for a general audience, maybe just the audience that deals with this stuff on a regular basis. But if I did, I'd have a segment dedicated to Glenn Greenwald, there's probably a nicer way to say that, and that's me, Jose Requena, saying that. All the same, that doesn't mean that what he's saying is unfounded. And let's be honest, we really looked into what Hunter Biden was doing to Ukraine. You probably find all kinds of corruption and nepotism. Again, my point has always been that's not an argument to vote for Trump. Just like Trump's bankruptcies and corruption is not an argument to vote for Biden. But that doesn't, a week before an election, Glenn Greenwald wanted to say something, to lend to his brand of authenticity and objectivity. not being able to say that, and he sees a Biden administration coming of everybody that has really spun where the intelligence community wants to take the planet. You have Chelsea Manning, you have Snowden, you have Julian Assange. Sorry, I said all those names just now. But another name that's common in all that is Glenn Greenwald. And obviously he's scared of retribution, and his journalism being his shield and weapon is pretty on brand for him. So I'm rooting for him and wish him the best of luck. Sorry.
I would just say yes. So like using this example, if you're Glenn and you've co-founded the Intercept, and even if they're aligned or whatever with the Democratic Party in that way, if you're in his position and you see, okay, right before the election, they're stopping me from publishing this thing. If I submit to it, then they have precedent to do it again. And then they can do it again, and then it can be bigger. And then it's this scope creep. It's like, I think that I actually like the way that you worded it better than even I worded it. Instead of cancel culture and SJW, which really canonically focus on individual people, I like slow censorship and scope creep. I think that's maybe a more accurate way to define all of these things, although cancel culture, SJW, and I know it's used so common just on the left, but it's the same. It's just Puritans on each side doing their thing, and I'm just a very worrying thing to continue to see this scope creep and slow censorship that we're seeing.